I'm 77 years old, and I need to tell you something that might make you uncomfortable. Most people spend their entire lives chasing the wrong thing, and by the time they realize it, it's too late to fix. I know because I did exactly that. Everything you think you know about finding purpose is probably wrong. Society has fed you a lie so convincing that you won't see through it until you're lying in a hospital bed at midnight, staring at a ceiling tile with a water stain, shaped like a question mark, wondering how you got there. But before I tell you what happened in that room, you need to understand why I'm even making this video. I'm not here to impress you. I'm not here to tell you I figured it all out and now my life is perfect. I'm here because I'm running out of time, and maybe you are too, except you don't know it yet. If this story helps even one person avoid the trap I fell into, then the embarrassment of admitting my mistakes will be worth it. If you want more stories like this, real stories from people who learned the hard way, subscribe to this channel. Now let me tell you about the 52 years I wasted. From the outside, my life looked fine. Better than fine, actually. I had a career that paid well. Respected position. I had a house in a good neighborhood. I had routines that hummed along like clockwork. Every morning at 6:15, I'd make coffee in the same blue mug. By 6:45, I was at my desk. Weekends were yard work, errands, watching television shows I didn't care about, but kept watching anyway because that's what I did on Saturday nights. People probably thought I had it together. Colleagues would say things like, "You've got it made," or "must be nice." But here's what they didn't see. I was empty. Completely empty. I remember sitting in my home office one Thursday afternoon, the light coming through the blinds in those straight yellow lines, dust floating in the air, and realizing I couldn't remember the last time I felt anything real. Not joy, not sadness, not even anger. Just this flat, gray nothing. The hum of the computer, the neighbor's dog barking. Life happening around me while I sat there like furniture. I wasn't living. I was going through the motions. And the worst part? I didn't even realize it was killing me. Then came March 17th. I remember the date because it was a Tuesday, and I was supposed to meet my daughter for lunch. One of those plans we'd made weeks ago that I'd almost canceled twice. I was putting on my jacket, keys in my hand, when my left arm went numb. Not painful at first, just heavy, like it didn't belong to me anymore. I sat down on the edge of the bed. My wife was at the grocery store. The bedroom was quiet except for the clock on the nightstand, that steady tick that suddenly sounded too loud. Too fast. I tried to stand up and the room tilted. The corner of the dresser seemed to slide sideways. I don't remember calling 911, but I must have, because 20 minutes later I was in an ambulance, staring at the ceiling, watching a paramedic's lips move, but not hearing the words. At the hospital, they ran tests. Wires, machines, questions I could barely answer. The doctor came in around midnight, a young guy who looked exhausted, and said something about a minor stroke, something about being lucky, something about lifestyle changes. But lying there in that bed at 2 in the morning, 4 in my arm, that antiseptic smell filling my lungs, machines beeping in rhythm, I didn't feel lucky. I felt like a fool. And that's when I realized the lie I'd been living. The lie was simple. Just 2 words, actually. I have time, that's it. That's the poison that ruins everything. I have time to call my brother. I have time to take that trip. I have time to tell people what they mean to me. I have time to figure out what actually matters. I have time to start living the way I want to live. I have time to be a better father, a better husband, a better friend. You know what happens with that lie? The goalposts keep moving. When you're young, you say you'll live after you finish school. Then after you get the promotion. Then after you make enough money. Then after the kids are grown. Then after you retire. Then after you pay off the house. Each milestone arrives and you don't feel different, so you just pick a new one. The carrot stays the same distance away. You spend 50 years chasing it. And then one day you're in a hospital bed and you realize the race is almost over and you never actually bit into anything real. Let me ask you something, and I want you to answer honestly, even if it's just in your head. What are you waiting for? What's your excuse? What's the thing you keep telling yourself you'll do later? I had a coworker named Martin. Good guy, quiet, the kind who brought his lunch in a brown bag and never complained. He always said he was going to take his wife to Ireland. That's where her family was from. County Cork. He talked about it for 15 years. Always the same plan. They'd go when he retired. They'd rent a cottage. They'd drive the countryside, visit the old family farm where her grandmother grew up. He had brochures on his desk. He had maps. He had a whole folder. He retired on a Friday in June. The company threw him a little party with cake and a plaque that said something generic about dedication. 2 weeks later, he had a heart attack mowing his lawn on a Sunday morning. He died before the ambulance arrived. At the funeral, his wife stood there holding the brochures. She didn't cry, just stood there with those folded papers in her hands, staring at nothing. Someone asked her if she was okay, and she said, "We had time. We always had time." 5 words. That sentence followed me home. It sat in my kitchen. It watched me sleep, because I knew I was doing the exact same thing. You want to know what I regret? It's not the deals I didn't close or the promotions I didn't get. It's not the money I didn't make or the status I didn't achieve. It's the small things that didn't seem small until they were gone. I regret not visiting my brother more when he lived 2 hours away. We'd talk about getting together, grabbing dinner, maybe catching the game. But I was always busy, always had something else. And then he moved across the country for work, and now I see him maybe once every 3 years if we're lucky. We text on birthdays. That's what our relationship became. I regret not taking my daughter to the lake that summer she asked. She was 14. Awkward age. She wanted to learn to fish. She'd seen something on TV about it and thought it looked peaceful. I said we'd go next month. Next month turned into never. She's 40 now with her own kids, and I don't think she even remembers asking, but I remember. I remember her face when I said, maybe next time for the 3rd time. I regret not dancing with my wife at our friend's wedding. She wanted to, and I said I was tired. I wasn't tired. I was just uncomfortable, self-conscious, worried about looking stupid. 1 dance, 3 minutes of my life. I chose comfort over connection. She never asked again after that night. I regret not learning my father's stories before he died. He'd start to tell me something about his childhood, about the depression, about the war, and I'd check my watch, make an excuse, promise we'd talk later. Later never came. He died with all those stories. Gone. I regret every time I said I love you out of habit instead of meaning. Every time I was in the same room as someone but completely absent, scrolling through my phone, thinking about work, replaying some argument, anywhere but there. Not the deals, not the titles, not the awards on the wall, not the square footage of the house, the moments, the tiny, unrepeatable moments that build a life. Those are what I lost. Those are what I can't get back. Here's what nobody tells you about getting older. You don't feel old inside. I look in the mirror and I see this 77-year-old man, gray hair, wrinkles, age spots on my hands. But inside I still feel like I'm 35, maybe 40. Time doesn't feel real until it runs out. You think you have decades, and then you blink, and they're gone. And when you realize how little you have left, everything shifts. The things that seemed important shrink. The things you ignored become massive. After that night in the hospital, I started asking myself one question every morning. If this was my last year, my last month, my last week, would I do this? Would I spend 3 hours watching television I don't care about? Would I avoid that difficult conversation? Would I skip the walk because it's cold outside? Would I let another day pass without telling someone they matter? Would I say yes to things I hate just to avoid disappointing strangers? What changes when you ask that question? Embarrassingly simple things. You start choosing people over tasks. You say no to things that drain you and yes to things that fill you up, even if they're small. You call your parents just to hear their voice. Not because it's their birthday or because you need something. Just because. You sit with your grandkids without checking your phone. You take the trip. Not the perfect trip. Not when everything aligns. Just the trip. You have the conversation you've been avoiding. You stop waiting for permission to live the life you actually want. You protect your health because you realize your body isn't going to wait for you to be ready. You stop explaining yourself to people who don't matter and start being honest with people who do. This isn't about quitting your job or selling everything and moving to a mountain. Most people can't do that and don't need to. It's about stopping the leak. Stopping the slow drain of days spent on autopilot. It's about waking up while you still can. I can't get back the 52 years I sleepwalked through. That's gone. But I have now. Maybe I have 5 years, maybe 10 if I'm lucky, maybe less. I don't know. Nobody knows. What I do know is that I'm not wasting another day pretending I have forever. I call my brother every Sunday now. We talk for 20 minutes, sometimes about nothing important, and it's the best part of my week. I took my daughter to the lake last fall. We didn't fish. We just sat there and talked. She told me things about her life I never knew. About her struggles, her fears, her dreams. Things she'd never shared before. I dance with my wife in the kitchen when a song comes on. She laughs every time. Says I have no rhythm. She's right. I don't care. I write down memories and stories because I finally understand they matter. I say, I love you, and I mean it every single time. I look people in the eye. I ask real questions and wait for real answers. These aren't big things. They won't make headlines. They won't impress anyone. But they're real. They're mine. And I'm finally awake. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to leave a comment and tell me one thing you're going to stop waiting for. One thing you're going to do differently. It doesn't have to be huge. It can be a phone call, a conversation, a trip, a decision you've been avoiding. Just one thing. And if this story meant something to you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to this channel if you want more of these honest conversations. Because we're all running out of time, whether we're 27 or 77. And the only question that matters is this: what are you going to do with yours?